My family has been involved in construction from the 50s. In the beginning, it would have been my uncle, John Gobbi, and him would have started their own company back in the 50s. They did the tunnel underneath Santa Rosa City Hall at the time. Then from that point on, he moved on to Arthur B. Siri, and I started out in the paving, like most Gobbis do. From Siri, we would move on to Piombo, and then he worked for Piombo from approximately 71 to 89, I believe it is, 88. Piombo and that company had also done the work out on the pads for the Warm Springs Dam, had built all the roads. As a child, I would sit there and hop guineas with the crews and ride on the hoods of 51s coming down out of the hills, something they wouldn't let us do nowadays with our kids. His passion for work definitely would consume him when it came to his everyday life and going on into the weekends. We would, at points when he was working with Piombo, he'd be up in the hills above Lake Pillsbury, working for the National Park Service and the forestry, doing roads up there, so we wouldn't see him for weeks on end. Once in a while, we'd be lucky enough to go up there and fish in the streams and everything, or watch him do a shoot in the quarry, which leads to great stories when it comes to putting too much powder in a hole and the pictures that you see afterwards. Yeah, he's got all his fingers and everything, but he's also got pictures of rocks going way too far that they weren't supposed to go that far.
Mr. Gobbi came into my life probably in 1973. That was the year my dad actually went to work for him as a Teamster. And sometime between then and 1979, got to know him more. It was Louie, got to be just Louie to me. And he needed a weighmaster for a week because his weighmaster was going to be on vacation. It was at the Geyserville pit, and so I had to weigh the trucks when they came in. And it was kind of boring in between trucks. So I decided that, I'm going to multitask here. I'll bring a book the next day or two, and I'll bring a lawn chair, and I might as well get a suntan at the same time, right? So I put on, it was a bikini top and shorts, but Louie swears in his stories that he tells everyone, any chance he gets when he sees me, that I was in a bikini. I was not in a bikini, but I was, tanning, and I was still doing my job. I don't get what the problem was, but the funniest part was Louie, anyone that knows him knows how he drives. So he has his pickup truck, comes flying in to the pit. He, jams the gear shift into park, and as the truck is still rocking from moving, he's going, "Gunnar, what do you think you're doing? You're holding up my trucks. You're too much of a distraction." And so that was my first job in construction, working for Louie Gobbi.
They were bought out by Rasmussen. And then at that point, about a year before Rasmussen actually purchased Piombo, my father had moved on to Gelati Brothers, which at the time was going through their own little turmoil in that they were splitting between Dick and Mario. And so at that point, he ended up being the first general superintendent for construction, Gelati Construction. And from that point on, he basically just spent the rest of his career with Gelati, with the added thing of starting his own equipment rental business approximately 29 years ago. And we would call it G&G Heavy Equipment Rents.
The original was V&G. It was Bob Vick and Louie Gobbi. Bob wanted out. He wanted to go retire and ride off into the sunset. And Louie, I would say Louie was the backbone of the rental side of the company. And so Louie bought his well-deserved half back from his partner and added the second G with his son Jim at the time.
To be honest, we barely survived in the beginning because it was tough. We were both working full-time at the same time running the business. And then we progressed to the point where approximately 10 years ago, we brought in Nate Aney to continue our business and to make it grow.
Louie started the rental company with the idea that there were certain machines that Gelati Construction didn't own for projects that came up. And he had a conversation with Dick, and he ended up with a few tractors that just kind of slowly added to a little bit more and a little bit more. When Louie and I truly partnered in with G&G, we exposed a lot more customers to Louie, and the projects really escalated quickly.
With the luck that we had, it grew exponentially. Nate brought in a lot of experience and a lot of knowing of people. And with the combination of my father's experience and the people he knew, we were able to build a very successful business.
We grew from a small 44 machine fleet to, I think at our peak, of about 160 tractors. And we have rented tractors from Utah to Oregon. Louie's dream was a hobby owning a couple of tractors that he could call his own and play with. It turned into it's a fairly good sized monster that we're just trying to hold on to it. It's his legacy will continue and live on for years.
I came on the scene taking care of all the cat equipment on the job for Peterson Tractor, and that's when I met Louie.
I remember the man who ran it, Dwayne's uncle at the time, brought up on one of their souped-up 9s, and it had the biggest blades you could imagine for pushing, and he backed that thing off, and as soon as they got it off the trailer, the front end just dropped because the blade was, I want to say it was like 10 feet tall. Would end up chopping off the top 3 or 4 feet of the blade just so they could keep the ass end on the ground. But they said when they ran that thing, it was like a dragster. So he got to experience the first piece of equipment that were coming out of Peterson.
It was only really in the later years when he got into the equipment rental business that we really crossed paths a lot. And just a great guy, so full of energy. It's amazing. I mean, you'd think he was just 50 or whatever. And just a fun guy to be around, and knew what he was doing, treated people really well, and I really liked the man.
With my father, he's not one to he plays it very close to the vest. He's never one to give out too much information when it comes to his emotions or anything, but when it came to work, you got all the information that you can handle in a day.
And Louie, he lived his entire life like he had years and years and years. He's still living like he's got years to go finally. But there's not too many 85-year-old guys that would tell you that, give me that hammer, kid. I'll show you how to swing it. No fear of heights. Doesn't catch poison oak. He'll walk through it and not get it. If he wanted to, he would still climb up onto the boom of 345, 349 and change a hydraulic hose, hanging off the side of it. He had got LASIK surgery, I think at 84, 85 years old, so he could weld better without having corrective lenses in his welding helmet.
You couldn't outwork Louie. There's no way you could do it. Just think the world of the guy, and it's hard to believe he's up in the years that he's in, but it happens to everybody.
Louie is the kind of friend that we could all hope for. And when my father passed away, Louie reached out to me. We had a conversation that it touched me deeply. And yeah, he's the kind of man that we all strive to be. That is hard, that is driven, that is goal-oriented, but he is a man with one of the largest hearts that I've met. And I had a great father. And Louie has been a great father figure and a great friend. Yeah.
Cheers to you, and thank you. I love you, and you'll always have a special place in my heart.
If I wanted to say anything to my father, I would say that I appreciate all the experience you gave me. I know at times it was rough to work together as we did day to day for 40 years, and that we had our moments. But at the same time, I believe that I learned more from you than most people can learn from 10 people in a lifetime when it comes to the work we've done. I am honored to be able to be his son and to have had him lead me through this life that I've chosen. It's made an impression upon me that could never be taken away from me. And for that, I love him immensely.